Hello. Hi, everyone. I finally got my tripod working again. So that is super exciting. So you're going to see my eyes shifting back and forth again from Facebook to Instagram. Facebook, Instagram. Hey everyone, for those of you who don't know me, hey, thanks for coming on. My name is Rachel Leah Gerson, and I am the creatrix of Doorway to Self LLC, where I marry counseling techniques with psychic tools to help people understand the world of mental health from a different angle, the energy angle. So, hey Jessie, thanks for coming on. So, super excited for this event because I missed last month. I had a horrible migraine on the day I was supposed to do this. And so I really want to thank all of you for your grace in allowing for September's month to roll by as we come into October. I know this is a really popular event during this month because, of course, Halloween is coming up. And so everybody tends to get really excited about energy and the psychic world and all of that stuff at this time of the year. So welcome. I hope this is a fun kind of pre-celebration thing for you at this point in time. Hey Lauren, hey Paula, thanks for coming on. If you are new to this event, the way that this works is that at any point in time, you are welcome and free to pop questions into the comment box on Facebook or on Instagram. It doesn't matter what platform you are watching from. I will be able to see your questions. You'll just see on Facebook, you'll see a little thing that says write a comment, and on Instagram, you'll just see comment ... Hey, Jessica, thanks for coming on. And so yeah, you can just pop your questions into the comment box. I will get to them in order. Sometimes, I will warn you, sometimes Facebook likes to hide questions from me. So if I do not get to your question, I do apologize. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of flag it and save it for the next time to ask then. So still working out the kinks on that, but I am going to do my best. You and your backdrop look great. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I kind of got a little into it today, guys. I got a little into it. Anyways, so what was I saying? Yes. So there's that. Also, if you want to ask questions anonymously, unfortunately, the window for that tonight has closed. But for future Q&As, I do these once a month. You are welcome to shoot me a private message, a direct message, or an email to doorwaytoself@gmail.com, and I will be happy to answer that question for you anonymously in the next Q&A. That said, I'm going to get us started by answering some of the questions that came in this time. They're super in-depth. I really, really love the way that you guys are thinking right now. These are just such fantastic questions that have come in. Okay, so let's see. So the first anonymous question is, how are the clairs different from telepathy and precognition, or is it simply a question of semantics? Is claircognizance the same as telepathy? How do you quiet a claircognizant mind? You see what I mean by in-depth thinking here. Is being an empath simply an aspect of telepathy? How can you tell the difference between a thought of emotion coming from a human as opposed to a spirit, especially if no one is around? So great bulk of questions all in one here. So here's what I'm going to say about this. I'm just going to break this down piece by piece. How are the clairs different from telepathy and precognition, or is it simply a question of semantics? So telepathy would be technically a more advanced form of clairaudience, because you are hearing what's going on. Okay, so plants waving hi, guys. So basically, clairaudience is psychic hearing, right? And telepathy is the ability to communicate via your mind to another person's mind, or vice versa. Usually with telepathy, I would argue that both both people would either have to have clairaudience or claircognizance, right? Claircognizance is that intuition, that deep knowing, you just know, right? So telepathy would have to work with either of those, either hearing it or being able to just know what the other person is saying. So that's what telepathy is. As far as precognition, completely different thing. Precognition, so there are 3 different types of ways in which you can get a psychic experience: precognitive, cognitive, and postcognitive. So for a precognitive experience, it means that you are receiving psychic information before the event happens. Cognitive would be you're receiving the psychic information as the event is happening, and post-cognitive would be you're receiving the information after the event has happened. So for instance, let's say that your brother is getting engaged. Okay, your brother's getting engaged. You have no idea that he's going to pop the question. You have no idea any of this is going on. And you all of a sudden see a ring on his finger. Okay, so that would be a precognitive clairvoyant experience, right? Because you're seeing it. So it's a precognitive experience because you're having the psychic information come to you before the event happens. And then like a week later, or a month later, or whatever, he's like, oh my gosh, I just got engaged, blah, blah, whatever. And you're like, I knew. So that would be precognitive. Cognitive would be as he's asking the question, you're getting the image, or you're hearing him ask, or you're feeling it, or you know that it's happening, right? That would be cognitive because it's in the moment that it's happening, you are having the psychic information experienced. Post-cognitive would be if he popped the question and then it's like a day later, he still hasn't told you. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think my brother just got engaged. And so you call him up and you're like, hey, did you get engaged? And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? So that would be post-cognitive. So I hope that helps to clarify. Telepathy can only be cognitive because you are communicating with somebody mentally, right? You are communicating with somebody psychically. And for that communication to go back and forth right away, it would be a cognitive thing. It's happening in the moment. So I hope that helps. The second question in this little grouping here is claircognizance the same as telepathy? So I kind of answered that a little bit already. You can use claircognizance through telepathy, right? That inner knowing, that immediate gut hunch, in order to communicate psychically. How do you quiet a claircognizant mind? Claircognizance usually isn't an issue in terms of, you know me, y'all, fidgeting always. Claircognizance isn't, I don't normally associate that with a busy mind. I would say that more for clairaudience, right? Because you're constantly getting the words, you're constantly hearing things in your head or maybe outside of your head, right? You're hearing the voices or the songs or the tones or whatever it is. So I would associate that more with a busy mind. As far as claircognizance, it's just these deep knowings. You weren't necessarily like hearing things and you don't really have to think about them, right? Because if you have to think about them, it's not claircognizance. It's just you're having a busy brain. So I don't quite know how to answer that question. Is being an empath simply an aspect of telepathy? It can be, because you can communicate emotions back and forth, right? So being an empath, being able to feel someone else's emotions, you might be able to communicate that back and forth if both people are empaths. I suppose you could do that as well. How do you tell the difference between a thought of emotion coming from a human as opposed to spirit, especially if no one is around? So in this case, I would say ask, right? And this person does bring up a huge point of, especially if no one is around, right? Because a lot of the challenge that empaths tend to have is we might feel things, post-cognitively, right? So we're around someone for 5 hours, but we're not actually feeling their emotions until 5 hours later, or a day later, or a week later, or whatever it is, and it takes that long to onset. And so if that person is not not around us, it can be really hard to decipher, like, oh, this isn't mine, because no one else is around. That said, if you are a medium, which I know we have a question about coming up soon, but if you are a medium and you communicate with people who have crossed over via feeling their feelings, it is entirely possible that spirits can come around, people who have crossed over, whatever you want to call them, have come around, and you are feeling their emotions. And that would be a very tricky thing to decipher. Is this a spirit I'm feeling emotionally? Is this a live human that I'm feeling emotionally? Is this my own emotion? And then we narrow that down, right? You find out, oh, okay, this isn't mine. Whose is it? Is it a live person, dead person? Okay, live person. So you can kind of go at it. I guess my answer to this question is ask. Right? Your gut will know, your intuition will know. And a lot of you who've been following me for a long time, oh, hey, Luke, hey, Anna. So good to see you guys. A lot of you who've been following me for a long time know this exercise very well, but I will do it again for you so that you can see. Normally I would be standing, but I'm just gonna do this on my knees now for the purpose of y'all being able to see me. So, and go up a little bit for Facebook here. So, basically, I like to put my hands at my solar plexus. Some people like to do heart. Some women like to do womb space. Some people like to do combination thereof. Other people like to do hands by the sides. But the point is that you are going to ask your body, and your body's going to know. Forward is yes, backwards is no. So you would start out by saying, my name is ... and then inserting your name. So in my case, I'd say, my name is Rachel, and I'm going to fall forward. So I'm Rachel. A lot of the cases, and this was a huge way that I recovered from bipolar, is when you ask, my name is blah, 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 and you fall backwards, a lot of the time you are holding other people's energy because you're holding other people's emotion, which is energy, right? So that could be a test to know, is this mine, is this not mine? So the next step in the question, so my name is Rachel, I fall forward, I could also ask, after that question, my name is only Rachel. Because it's also possible to be holding your energy and someone else's energy at the exact same time. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Emma, thanks for coming, you guys. I really appreciate you being here. Hi, Fred. Thanks for coming in. I will get to your comment in just a moment as soon as I'm done with this. So, So you say, my name is Rachel, or your name, actually, and then my name is only Rachel. I'm going to fall forward because I'm totally me at this point. But you might fall backwards. And if that's the case, then you would know, okay, there is someone else occupying my space energetically right now. So then you can start testing, right? You can still ask the question again. You can say, this is an entity, and I'm falling backwards, so that's a good thing, because that means there's no entity in me. This is a spirit. This is my mom. This is my friend Jill, who I hung out with the other day, whatever it is. And you can keep asking. So that's a really effective tool to use. I've found, and it might not be as effective for you. Everybody's different. You might want to try also looking up muscle testing. That's a type of muscle testing, but there are many different types, and different versions tend to work better for different people. So, it's up to you. Try it out, see if it works. But that would be my best answer to that, I think. And then I also want to kind of throw a question back at this, is why does it really matter? If it's not yours, it shouldn't be in your body. You can ask, why is this here? What am I supposed to learn from this? What are you trying to communicate to me? What am I, is there something that I'm needed for here? Is there some reason I'm needing to feel this right now? And then just quieting down and going within and listening to that. So I hope that this is helpful to this person. I know they've been really, really patient because they were hoping to have this answered in the September Q&A, and then all that junk happened where I had to reschedule. So I do really appreciate, again, all of your patience, and so hope that is helpful. All right, so let's see. Oh, it looks like we have a verse here. Okay, Fred says, John 3:6, he that believeth in the Son hath everlasting life, and he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. Thank you so much for sharing this, Fred. I really, really respect your beliefs, and I appreciate you sharing this for whomever it might be helping. So thank you for that. Hey, Amber. Thanks for coming on. Good to see you, Mama. Okay. So, again, I'm going to remind you guys, if you want to pop a question into the comment box at any point in time, I am super ready and excited to see your questions, and to answer them and talk about them and have a good old-fashioned one-way camera conversation about them, ? No, you can always comment back, though. It doesn't have to be one way. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting, friends, I love that. Yeah, so much support here right now from the formerly known as Wild Feminine Unleashed Real Ass Women group. That was a thing. That was a great thing. Loving it. Okay. Let's see. In the meantime, I am going to go on to the next anonymous question. There are quite a few here, so I'm just going to, from this one anonymous person, so I'm just going to break them up again. But I'm going to kind of just like in the middle check in and see if there are any questions in the live feed, and I'll just skip back and forth between y'all because there's a lot of questions here, which is super exciting. So this person was specifically responding to the channeling article that I just published on the Doorway to Self blog. And for those of you who are not following the blog or are not signed up for the Doorway to Self email list, this is a really rich way, in my opinion. I'm the one publishing it, of course, in my opinion. I hope it is a rich way to get a boatload of free information. So every month I do two things. At the very beginning of the month, I post an article on the blog that walks you through the entire month, the whole energy of the month. So it walks you through just kind of the general energy, and then the numerology, and then the astrology, and then like other random things, and then how all of that is tying together, and then the tips of the best ways to utilize that energy for the month. So a lot of people find that to be really helpful. And then the other thing that I post mid-month is a Claire article. So I have actually gotten through all of the different types of psychic abilities, the Claires as we call them, up to the very last one, which will be published next month, which is about mediumship. So if you identify with being a medium or having that ability, not everyone has that ability. Not everyone has all the abilities, right? So, but if that's something you identify with for yourself or for someone else or whomever, or you're just super curious about what is this thing, I highly suggest signing up for the Doorway to Self email list, because that's how you're going to be notified right away as to when these articles come out. Just hop onto doorwaytoself.com and a little pop-up will come up and you can just put your email in there and it'll sign you up. So that's exciting. But also if you follow me on at Doorway to Self on Instagram or Doorway to Self on Facebook, I always do a post when there's a new article. So the latest one was published yesterday and it is about psychic channeling. So if you don't know what channeling is, in short, because the article's there for you to read, but in short, it is when you are able to bring information through you. Okay, it's not usually a conscious thing. It's more something that, what is going on? Wait, no, what? Live video stopped. Why? Why was live video stopped? Sorry, Instagram, hold on for a second. We've got some issues on Facebook here. I don't know why. Oh, goodness. When Mercury's going retrograde at the end of the month, we experience technical difficulty sometimes. That was my fun little song for you. Hey, Jenny, I'm glad you enjoyed that. Okay. Let's try this again. Take two. Hey everyone, we're back. Instagram, we never left. Thanks for sitting with me and staying with me. Jenny says perfect timing for me to hop on. Great song. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I'm like turning red right now. Steph, I'm glad you enjoyed that too. Oh, goody. Okay. Hi, we're back. So, I was just explaining what channeling is. So psychic channeling is the ability to be able to just allow information to flow through you. And it's usually information that is enlightening. So you can channel information from your higher self. So a lot of people will experience this through like automatic writing or meditation or yoga, things like that help you to be really connective to yourself. A lot of people will just like, especially with the automatic writing thing, right? You're just like, and all of this stuff comes out and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I have all of these realizations about myself? You're channeling from your higher self. But you can also be a channel for other people as well. So if you're someone who like gives information and it just seems to like flow through you and it's just coming and coming and coming and people are like, whoa, that's exactly what I needed to hear, then that's likely channeling. You can also channel universal information. This is something that I do a lot when I'm in the zone writing my blog posts, especially for the energy of the month stuff. Just asking for that universal energy to flow through you. What do people need to hear right now? What do they need to know? And just allowing that to come through. I have like no control over it. I mean, I do have control over it, but you're very conscious while you're channeling. It's just that like the information's coming so quickly, you don't really like try and do it. It just kind of happens. Hey Jesse, I see your question. I'm going to answer this one real quick and then I will get to you. Thanks for asking something. I appreciate you. So the question was, that brought me on that whole tangent, would you consider Reiki energy work to be a form of channeling? If not, what would be some key differences? And the answer is absolutely. I would argue that any form of energy work, and here's the key, if the practitioner is trained, especially in energy ethics, and if they have done the work, whether it's shadow work or not, but the work in general to know what is their energy, what is not their energy, to make sure they're not pushing their own energy into another person, to make sure they're not taking energies from other places and pushing them into the other person. If you're doing energy work and you're pushing energy, you're not doing energy work in a healing way. You're doing it in actually a very destructive way that can be very harmful. So if you're doing energy work correctly in a way that is healing and ethical and etc., then yes, you're absolutely channeling universal energy around the person. You are channeling their energy towards you in a way, and maybe through you, so that you can, but like not in a very direct way. I don't know how to explain it completely, but so that you can kind of get a taste for what they need and what you can be moving around, or helping to move around, because you're guiding it. They're doing the actual moving of it. So I hope that is helpful. I will get to your next question very soon, anonymous person, because I want to take this live question first. Hey, Susan, thanks for coming on. All right, Jesse says, is everyone able to channel, or is this a gift only some people have? So, as far as being able to channel for yourself, I would say everybody absolutely has access to that. As far as being able to channel for other people verbally or through writing, I would argue that that is a gift that some people have, not everyone. And again, it's really important to remember that psychic ability is fluid. So you might not have the ability to channel for other people right now, but you might gain it later on when you are ready for it, and when other people are ready for it, or when it's needed from you. So it's always something you can gain. The other thing is, as far as the energy work goes, I do think that that's something you can learn, but I also think it takes a lot of internal work. It takes a lot of learning how to set aside the ego, learning that you are not the person in charge of this other person's healing or doing the actual healing. They're doing it for themselves. Blah, blah, etc. If you don't know my spiel by now. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that helps, Jesse. Thanks. That was a really good question. I'm going to go back to this anonymous person's lots of questions here now. And, oh, you say thanks. Oh, you're welcome. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the live comment box and I will answer them, or I'll do my best. So this next question from this person is, aside from the energy boost or drain, what is a good way to differentiate between mediumship and channeling? Love this question. And she gives an example here. So, for example, I was working on a friend with Reiki and I asked for willing benevolent entities to assist. One did, and I could sense what to do. Eventually, words came with the feeling, and my friend identified the entity as her deceased grandmother, who was a healer in the family during her living years. I would get her words in my head, kind of like your inner voice when you're thinking, but it felt different. So here is the sticky difference. So with channeling, you're channeling. That was not very descriptive. You'll get what I'm saying in a second. With mediumship, it specifically has to do with people who have died and are no longer on this earthly plane. You can channel messages from those people. However, when their energy enters you and takes you over, if that's something you experience, which I usually find happens with what I call to be direct mediums, or with mediums who use their empathic abilities specifically to communicate with dead people, that would not be channeling. That would be straight up mediumship. And that's what leaves you drained, because you are allowing your energy to be pushed out while theirs is entering you. You are in the middle of the picture there. Whereas channeling, it's like a filter, right? So you can kind of think of it, you can kind of think of it as, and again, this is only for, because mediumship is an ability that utilizes all of the psychic abilities, right? So you could experience clairsentience, you could smell a dead person, Like, someone was telling me the other day they smell their grandmother's perfume, right? And she's passed. So you could smell a dead person when they're around, and that's how you communicate. The definition of being a medium is that you can communicate with dead people in some way, shape, or form. People don't tend to think necessarily that smell is a way of communication, but it absolutely is. So clairescence for mediumship, clairvoyance for mediumship, you might see the dead person, right? Clairaudience for mediumship, you can hear what they're saying. So it works the same way. Again, this is only for people who are using clairempathy, right? The ability to feel other people's emotions as though they're your own, or physicalities. People who are using that ability for mediumship, that can be extremely draining if done the wrong way. And people who allow entities to take over their bodies, which, again, total mediumship or full mediumship or whatever you want to call it, that can be extremely draining. The difference between that and a channel is that channeling, you just get the information and it would start flowing through you, right? So it's kind of like a coffee filter. So channeling for mediumship would be making coffee with a filter, whereas using clairempathy or total mediumship for mediumship would be like sludge. You'd be making coffee without a filter, right? So one's allowing the information to pass through you. You are the vessel that is bringing this information to the physical. Whereas the other one is you're just allowing it to take you over completely. So that would be the difference. I hope that is helpful to that person. They have 3 more questions, but I'm going to check in. It looks like we have a couple here in the live. So, hey, Brittany, thanks for coming in. Brittany says, with Mercury in Scorpio and soon to go retrograde, am I only the one who's starting to feel like discretion will be a big theme in these next weeks? I've been holding back from posting and expressing so many things lately, and I don't know if it's Mercury in Scorpio or what. So that's an absolute possibility. I like this question a lot. Mercury retrograde is something that people tend to freak out about, like, oh my gosh, everything's gonna go fall apart and my car is gonna break down and all communication's gonna go to shit. So I really appreciate that you're taking this approach of A, looking at what sign Mercury's in, because that's important, and B, looking at it as what lesson is it having me slow down with? Where am I needing to slow down, hold back, pull back? And so, yeah, absolutely. Mercury retrograde in Scorpio could definitely look like needing to use discretion. It could also look like needing to watch your biting tone or not be contemptful to people in your conversations. Speaking from somebody who has their Mercury in Scorpio here. Where are you using biting remarks? Do you need to pull back on that? Do you need to use more compassion in your conversation? Maybe you need to sit back and observe more. Maybe you need to become more observant. Or maybe you take conversations too deep and you need to learn how to have some chill talk, right? Or whatever. So all of those things can absolutely be exemplary of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. And it's funny, I love that you asked this question. I don't know, Brittany, if you were here watching before I had to restart the video, but some random technological glitch happened and the video quit on Facebook and I had to restart it. And I was saying this little ditty about Mercury going retrograde soon. So I like this question too, because, a lot of people think, and I write about this a lot too, boom, this is the date. It's going retrograde on October 31st. And so that's when retrograde starts. But really, we're experiencing the shade what's called the shade. So when Mercury gets ready to go retrograde, we start feeling the effects trickle in. So it's not that it's going to go retrograde on the 31st and all of a sudden the world's going to go topsy-turvy. It's that we're slowly easing into this slower pace of life where our communication and technology skills are really being focused on right now. I've seen 2 people with flat tires in the last week, and I saw another person whose transmission went out this last week. It's already starting, guys, but it's okay. It's not about, I know it's really annoying, all of these things that happen, but the important part is that we look at the struggles as what are they trying to teach us. Maybe I was driving too fast. Maybe I was too tired when I was driving. Maybe I shouldn't have been driving at all, right? In those situations, or what we already talked about with the communication. What am I trying to learn here? There's always something to learn with the retrograde cycles. So the other thing, too, to take into account is that Pluto just went direct at the very beginning of the month. We are still feeling the effects of that as well, because it's also on its shade period, but coming back out into direct, too. So, lots of shadowy stuff coming up, lots of inner child work and facing the self and going deep and all of that good junk. So there might be some communication stuff that surrounds all of that as well. Jessie says, I've been feeling that too and getting messages that I need to be stealthy about things. Yeah, so maybe like not sharing as much during this time. That's okay. And listen to your gut. Brittany says, so glad it's not just me. No, it's not just you for sure. Reflection is a big theme. Yeah, for sure. Great question. Thank you for that. All right. I'm going to look at the next question from our anonymous question donor here. I love this. This person just like went ham on questions. It's great. So yeah. And again, in the meantime, definitely thank you. Oh, you're welcome. In the meantime, if you have any other questions, pop them in the box. I will get to them. If someone gets hyper when storm energy is around and they feel more, quote, alive when they are otherwise fairly lethargic, would that mean more of them acting as a channel of sorts, or more likely that they're just feeding off the storm somehow? That's interesting. I could answer this 600 different ways. That sounded really braggy when I said that. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it more like there are a lot of answers, a lot of different ways that question could be answered. Okay, the very first thing that comes to mind is a little fringy. So if you guys are not starseed familiar or extraterrestrial type stuff, if that's not your deal, you can tune me out for a second. Storms are said to be highly associated with the Sirius star system. Sirius is known as our spiritual sun here on Earth. Basically, it is said that people who are highly connected with Sirius, whether they have some of that energy in them here from Earth, or if they've had other lives on Sirius, or if, this whole hybrid baby theory thing, just stay with me here, guys. If you want more info on this, by the way, Bridget Nielsen has some awesome stuff out there. She's on YouTube. I reference her all the time. She's awesome. Love her. Anyways, go check her out. Regardless, so yeah, basically when there are storms happening, people who have that Sirian energy in them tend to ramp up a lot. So that's answer number one. Answer number two, there is also a theory that because storms are associated with Sirius, that high universal energies are coming down to Earth through storm energy in general anyways. And so people who are highly sensitive would be picking up on that and channeling that, or feeling it and kind of like changing or getting more energy or whatever it is. And then lastly, the last way I can answer that is yes, absolutely, that person could be just feeding off of the storm energy as well. All of that static and stuff. So hope that is helpful. Bring the fringe. I love it. Thanks, Jessie. Okay. I'm not seeing any new questions here. Let's see. The next thing this person asked is, what other things could cause a tingling sensation at the top of your head? Because in that channeling article, I do talk about the top of your head tingling. Or is that sensation generally only associated with channeling? So my answer to that is plain and simple. Absolutely. Hey, Emily, thanks for coming in. Absolutely, that can be caused by other things, namely clairsentience, right? So also there's an article out there on that too on the blog. So doorwaytoself.com, go check it out. Shameless plug. Okay, so with clairsentience, you are experiencing energy in general. You're experiencing energy in a physical and emotional way. How is other energies from other people, places, things, objects, animals, etc., how is that interacting with your energy? And so for a lot of people, that manifests as physical sensations, most notably changes in temperature in their bodies, right? They might feel super hot. They might even start sweating. They might get the chills. They might have goosebumps, things like that. The other way is through tingling, whether that's on your skin or like actual, like in your stomach, like maybe butterflies feeling, or maybe like they get really itchy, try to scratch out their skin. I find that a lot of people who have like skin picking disorders or things like that tend to have really strong clairsentience, and they're literally just trying to get the energy out. And so they're just like scratching and picking and like pinching and stuff, which is just super intriguing. But regardless of that, yes. So if you have clairsentience, you can absolutely experience tingling at the top of your head. Tingling can also happen when you are highly connected to your higher self. You might not necessarily be channeling, but just that connectiveness, that opened crown chakra, could be a tingle. And then also if your spirit guides or guardians or whatever you want to call them are around your dream team, right? Might get tingling sensations there too, just to let you know they are there. So that's the answer to that. I'm seeing another question here. Susan says, can you say a little more about what shadow work means and specifically what it might look like in this time in terms of the energy we're working with? I realize this is kind of a giant question. Yeah, it is kind of a giant question, but that's okay. I'm going to do my best. To tackle that. Okay, so shadow work, okay, so this is the easy part. Shadow work is essentially looking at the, quote, ugly bits, as I like to call them. Right? You are looking at the parts of yourself that you don't necessarily like. Maybe it's your anger. Maybe it's the way that you judge yourself. Maybe it's what you judge yourself for. Maybe it's things in the past that, maybe you didn't treat people well, or, something like that. Stuff from your childhood, trauma, all of this stuff about ourselves that we don't want to face, those are all our shadows. Okay? And so shadow work is actively and intentionally going into those darker, quote, ugly bits, right? Those darker places, to dive headfirst into those shadows, understand them, and shift them to become positive assets in our lives. So let me see if I have an example for you guys. I'm always doing the shadow work. It's just always a thing. Oh, well, this is an easy one with my diagnosis, right? You're bipolar, diagnosed bipolar. End of story, no question about it. You did the testing, blah, blah, whatever, right? So I dove deep into that, and I went deep into what does depression mean to me? What are all the crazy things I have done during my manic phases? Why did I do those things? What was rooted in my background that would have driven me to do those things, etc.? And as I continued to dive into all of those pieces, I began to understand more about myself, gain more clarity, and specifically gain more clarity around how I could forgive myself for certain things, how I could discard certain limiting beliefs from my childhood, how I could reclaim parts of myself that were lost because people told me that I was too much or too dramatic or too this or too that or not enough or not this or not that or whatever. Being able to reclaim parts of myself that were missing and find my balance and center and refine my energy. And through all of that work, I was able to, boom, get undiagnosed. You are no longer bipolar. You are healthy, blah, blah, blah. So that's a really extreme example of shadow work, but it's kind of the easiest off the top of my head example I can give you in terms of how might you turn an ugly thing, right? It's like the story of the ugly duckling, right? How can we turn that ugly duckling into a graceful swan that you want to be with, right? You want to be with yourself. Because that's what shadow work is. It's finding those places you don't want to be with yourself. You're living in that body 24/7, honey, right? You're living in that body 24/7. And so what times do you not want to live in that body, and why? Why don't you want to live with yourself? And then learning how to flip that around. So I hope that makes sense. So that's what shadow work is. Stephanie says, I think of when I get triggered, where did that come from? Yeah, absolutely. That is a fantastic example. Yeah, you get triggered. And, if you weren't doing shadow work, you might just go with that trigger and allow it to take you down the rabbit hole, and you react to it and you do this. And maybe even if you are doing shadow work, that's the route you follow. But then eventually, inevitably, you say, wait a minute, why did I get triggered just now? Why did that happen just now? What triggered me? What within myself can I control about this situation? How can I face this in a different way than I otherwise would before? So yeah, great example. Thanks for sharing that, Stephanie. That was a weird thing I just did with my tongue. I don't know what that was. Okay, what shadow work means, specifically what it might look like in this time in terms of the energy we're working with. So that's going to be different with every single person, right? Because it's completely dependent upon what are your own triggers, what are your own limiting beliefs, what are your past traumas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to look different for absolutely everyone. When you say during this time, oh gosh, that's where the loaded question is. One, coming out of that Pluto retrograde, we're going to likely be facing a lot more stuff, just at least for the next couple of weeks. Anything you've been working through during this summer, or also last summer or the summer before when Pluto was retrograde, I think it was April through September or October this year, last year, and the year prior. So during these times, what are some of the things you've been working on, or what are some of the triggers that have come up for you that you haven't been able to face, that you're ready to now, some of the lessons that you've been learning, etc. And so diving into those things, that's what you would be working on currently. And then also numerologically, taking into account the fact that we are in a 3-year right now. So 3 is all about communication, transformation, transmutation, life cycles, stuff like that. So maybe talking to a therapist or talking to a friend or sharing online or something to do with communicating about what your shadow work is. And that might even just be personal, right? It might be talking into a tape recorder, doing voice memos on your phone, or keeping a journal, things like that. Anything that has to do with moving through and speaking through or communicating through all of the process. So there's that. And then also being in a 10 month, and you guys can read about this. October is the 10th month of the year. If you check out the October article on the blog, you can learn all about what 10 means. But in short, it's about being able to build new steps off of old information. So you've learned this lesson, you've wrapped it up, and it has informed you to do XYZ, take your next steps, right? So so that, keeping that in mind as well, being able to look at all of the lessons you've learned in a positive light, how they can affect you moving forward. Like I'll use the same example, right? If I had not been diagnosed and then done the shadow work and then come out of it, then I would not be able to be doing this video right now, right? So that's a really good example. Shadow work makes a lot more sense to me now, and I feel like I've been making good progress here. Yay! Oh, that's lovely. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, if you want to know more about shadow work, Kelly-Ann Maddox, she's on the witchier side, so if you're not into that, I'd say stay away. But Kelly-Ann Maddox is, oh my gosh, amazing. I love her. She has such incredible information, and she's been putting stuff on YouTube and social media since, like, I don't know, for the last 8 years or so. So there's a whole library of stuff. I would sincerely recommend checking her out. There's someone else. Oh goodness, why can't I think of her name? If I think of it, I'll pop it in the comment box. Cool. Okay, the next anonymous question is, and this is still from this person, this is their last question. How common would you say channeling is? So we kind of talked about this already. Channeling for yourself, I think everyone can do it. Channeling through any energy work, anyone can learn to do it properly. Channeling for other people, I would say is probably not all too common. I don't really have a number for you, so I'm not going to make one up. But if I could guess, my guess would be maybe 1 in 10. That'd be my guess. I might be completely off with that. So, all right, y'all. We are about 5 minutes out, so I'm happy to take one more question. I do have one more that's anonymous here, so I'm just gonna paraphrase this because it's quite long. But basically, this lovely lady is asking me for help with her daughter. She said that I don't know how old her daughter is, but she said that she practices mediumship with different entities pretty much all day long. That's all she communicates with. She doesn't use any protection or have boundaries or anything. She says, what should I do? Because she's concerned for her health and her well-being and her safety. And she also said her daughter has pretty severe mood swings as well. So, which is something that someone like that would experience, right? I mean, speaking as somebody who had an entity living in my body for 6 years when I was a teenager. Like that's a real thing. And especially if the entity is coming and going and coming and going, that's going to make your mood swing, right? Because you're yourself, you're not yourself, you're yourself, you're not yourself. And even when you are yourself, you don't have enough time to fully embody yourself again. And so you're like trying to find yourself for that like 3 hours or 24 hours or whatever it is. So in her case, and she says she's like really stubborn, doesn't want to talk to anybody about it, doesn't want to stop. Honestly, in her case, I would say let her learn her lesson. And I know that's not the answer that this mom is wanting to hear. I know this is a concerned mom. I understand that. But unfortunately, I don't really see there being anything else that she can do for her daughter. I think this is something her daughter needs to either work through on her own or find another practitioner. And she did ask me for referrals considering that I'm currently taking on clients at the moment due to my internship for grad school. So I have my journey program clients, which is awesome. It's going so well. I love them. I love it. But yeah, I'm not taking on any clients at the moment. So if there were anyone to refer her to, I would suggest Gail Embry. She is on the other side of the state. You can find her on Facebook. But I don't actually know really anyone in the area who would deal with that. So I'm going to do some more research on that and get back to you on that. But yeah, unfortunately, I do think, if the person is in, this goes really universally for anyone, if the person is not open to the help and they're not open to being helped or finding a way out or healing or anything like that, there's really nothing that can be done. Because if they're not open to it, they're not going to do it, and they're in charge of their own healing. So it's pretty unfortunate, but I wish the best. I wish the best for this person, because that can be extremely dangerous. I know that I hurt quite a lot of people, including myself. I was cutting pretty heavily during that time when I had that entity in me, and taking scalding hot showers, trying to burn my skin and all sorts of stuff. So it can be really, 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 really scary to have an entity living in you, and to watch that, watch another person going through that. But it can be really dangerous. So if you are watching this, I'm not doing this to be like a scolding mother or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, from experience, I've been there. It's super fun at first, and it's like a high, and you feel super powerful, and you feel like you're doing all of these things that other people can't do, which makes you real cool and special. But ultimately, it can be super harmful. So just keeping that in mind. Before we wrap up here, I do poor connection. There you are, Instagram. Thanks for coming back. Okay, before I hop off here, I do want to let you guys know, if you don't know already, I will be at the Healing Mind Body Spirit Expo in Grand Rapids at the Deltaplex, November 2 and 3. It goes from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. I will be reading cards, doing astrology, doing numerology, selling potions, all weekend long. And at 3 p.m. on Sunday, I will be giving a 30-minute talk on energy ethics. Super, super, super excited. I know a lot of you have asked for me to do a talk on this, so it's happening. And yeah, for those of you who have been messaging me, emailing me, etc., to do a session, as I said, I'm not taking on clients at the moment, so this is the way to do it. So yeah, cards, numerology, astrology, potions, all options, plus the lecture, and I can't recommend this event enough. By Beverly and John, who put it on, are just incredible people. They always make sure to bring the highest caliber practitioners in. And so there are tons of amazing energy healers and readers and vendors, all the crystals, all the organite, all the fancy organic teas and things. So, oh, Jessie says planning to see you there. So excited. Yay! I'm excited too. It's gonna be fun. Anyways, I seriously love this event. There are going to be speakers all weekend as well. And every single one of those talks I've gone to the last couple of years has been on point. So, highly recommend it. Again, November 2 and 3 is at the Deltaplex. It's $10 to get in. And then everything is free once you're in. So, good things. If you're not already, follow me on Instagram at Doorway to Self or at rachel.leah.gerson. That's my personal account. You can check that out on Facebook, Doorway to Self. And